Recall.
Revelation 12. A woman, a dragon, and a man-child. Returning back to the pregnancy, there remains one last thing to discuss before moving on. There is much confusion concerning Christ's title, the Son of God, or the only begotten Son of God. In particular, because this implies, in earthly thinking, a birth. And if there was a birth, then when? How do we understand these things? How do we understand Christ's title, the Son of God? Jesus, the uniquely begotten Son of God. But, beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. 2 Peter 3:8. A paradox. Simply stated, God is not part of time. He sees all time at the same time. Using this as a basis for an explanation of Christ's title, in short, Jesus is the Son of God, not because of something that happened in the distant past, but because of something that occurred during his earthly ministry, the resurrection. What follows is the full explanation. Before the fall, there was God and Satan, two sides, separated by a chasm of sin and eternal death. The wages of sin is death. Romans 6:23. Eternal life marked God's side, while eternal death Satan's side. And into this situation was created Adam, the Son of God. Luke 3:38. With the fall, the situation changed drastically, so that, after the fall, Adam was now on Satan's side. He had given his allegiance to Satan by choosing to believe Satan over God, and in so doing had not only subjugated himself, but the entire human race. This is the first creation. But God so loved the world that he was not willing to leave this hopeless situation as is. He gave his only begotten Son, Jesus, to be born into and become part of our fallen race. And as it is written of Satan, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, Revelation 12:9, so it is written of Jesus. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. John 3:14. Jesus died a serpent, a dead to sin brass serpent, however, just another member of the serpent race. But it did not end there, because Jesus arose. After the resurrection, Jesus was now on God's side, and now possessed the title that Adam had once had, the Son of God, as the new father of redeemed humanity, the last Adam. 1 Corinthians 15:45. This is why Jesus is called the Son of God in the Gospels. In anticipation of the resurrection, there are only two births of the Son of God ever mentioned in the entire Bible, and no others. The first, when he was born as a baby in Bethlehem, the Incarnation, and the second, when he arose from the dead. God hath fulfilled the same unto us, their children, in that he hath raised up Jesus again, as it is also written in the second Psalm, Thou art my Son, this day have I begotten thee. Acts 13:33. God is plain that he begot the Son at the resurrection. Nowhere else does he make this claim. Recall again that God sees all time at the same time. The first begotten of the dead. Revelation 1:5. The beginning of the creation of God. Revelation 3:14. Which takes on a whole new meaning when you realize that the last Adam is the head of a new creation. The last creation. But there is more. Christ's death paid the debt of sin that all of us owe. And because he was God, and had life inherent in him, and lived a sinless life, he was able to pass over the chasm of sin and eternal death, creating a bridge for all that would believe. Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. John 14:6. However, no one becomes part of the last Adam's race until the judgment. During the judgment, those who really were Jesus' disciples are removed from the human race, the serpent race, given glorified bodies like that of the father of their race, Jesus, and become part of his race. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name, which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. John 1:12 and 13. Just as with Jesus, these sons and daughters of God are declared to be so at the resurrection of the just. God hath raised up, Thou art my son, or daughter. This day have I begotten thee. Acts 13:33. In closing, Jesus is called the Son of God in anticipation of the resurrection, when he becomes the last Adam, the replacement for the first Adam, who was the Son of God until he fell. God claims this as the point when Christ is begotten for two reasons. 1. Jesus' first birth was as part of the serpent race, undesirable for that reason. And 2. Jesus' new position as father of a new sinless race gives a point of adoption so God can adopt many other sons and daughters, which he does in the judgment. Returning back to the pregnancy, a thought to ponder as we close. If the Son of God was begotten at another time outside of the Bethlehem birth and the resurrection, why is the Bible, God, silent on it? Concerning the resurrection, if this is not when God truly begot Jesus, then why does he clearly state this in Psalm 2:7 and Acts 13:33? Thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee. Furthermore, why does he go so far as to put this birth, the resurrection birth, in John's writings, having Jesus clearly called the crucifixion and resurrection a birth in John's Gospel, and then make this birth a central point in prophecy in the 12th chapter of Revelation? Just a few things to ponder.